Not a lot of Trump. That's about it, though.
No, like maybe 40 minutes.
We do have a lot of news about Obamacare. We're going to start with that in a second. And then Hillary Clinton and TPP. Look, her transition team, that is so important. Yeah. Look, there's so many great stories today, but that might still be the story of the day because it gives you a chance to find out who's going to actually lead this nation. Look, at this point, Hillary Clinton is very likely to win. If she wins, who is going to select her staff? You gotta see. This is why we do the Young Turks. That story you've got to hear and you've got to understand because you won't get it anywhere else. Okay. But then in the second hour, we're going to have a ton of fun. The guy eats two people's face off in of course, Florida.
Which you also won't get anywhere else.
Right.
Other than Florida.
Yes, that's right. You only get it in Florida. We'll try to explain why. But the story of the day in terms of fun is about this lady.
I can't hear you. Do you fucking hear me? You got the right one, honey, because I'm a crazy bitch.
And in case you didn't believe her.
Please believe me.
That's basically Trump right there.
Okay. Believe me. But with her, you really should believe her.
Yeah, you should.
Wait till you see that story. That has a chance to be legendary. That's in the second hour. Do not miss it. All right, John, let's get started.
Okay, jumping into the big serious news of the day. There was some apparent bad news for Obamacare earlier today when insurance giant Aetna announced that they'd be pulling out of many of the state exchanges that currently help to fund and run various elements of Obamacare, and especially in a funding sense, are integral to the long-term viability of the system. But why exactly are they pulling out of it? You're going to find out in this video. But first, the numbers. While the insurer is offering plans in 15 states this year, something like 550 counties, I believe, it will offer coverage in just 4 states next year, also cutting in half, about half the counties that will be doing that coverage in. Now, they announced why, apparently, they've had to pull out of all these states. The spokesman for Aetna says, "This is a business decision based on higher than projected medical costs that result in a second quarter pre-tax loss of $200 million, which we project will grow to in excess of $300 million by the end of 2016. So, if you just listen to Aetna, they're saying it's simply not financially feasible to continue doing this. It's just expensive, there's medical costs, blah, 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 blah. Turns out that that's not the whole story, though, because the Huffington Post filed an awesome Freedom of Information Act request, and they found a letter that the CEO of Aetna, Mark Bertolini, sent to the Justice Department last year. This is a big section of the letter, but we're going to read it in full because it explains exactly what their thinking was, what their plan was, and how they're being deceptive right now. Feel free to jump in any time, obviously. This is from the letter. Our analysis to date makes clear that if the deal, speaking here about a possible merger with Humana, another large insurance company, were challenged and or blocked, we would need to take immediate actions to mitigate public exchange and ACA small group losses. Specifically, if the DOJ sues to enjoin the transaction, basically stop them from doing that massive merger, we will immediately take action to reduce our 2017 exchange footprint. We currently plan as part of our strategy following the acquisition, so if the merger actually goes through, to expand from 15 states in 2016 to 20 states in 2017. However, if we are in the midst of litigation over the Humana transaction, given the risks described above, we will not be able to expand to the 5 additional states. In addition, we would also withdraw from at least 5 additional states where generating a market return would take too long for us to justify, given the costs associated with a potential breakup of the transaction. In other words, instead of expanding to 20 states next year, we would reduce our presence to no more than 10 states. And I think anyone reading that, and the Huffington Post reporters in this case, agreed, that is a threat to the Justice Department to not stop the merger.
So that's not unclear.
No.
In fact, I'm surprised they wrote it out that plainly.
Yeah.
Where they say, okay, look, man, you want us to be part of the markets for Obamacare so that it has a better chance of succeeding? Well, you approve my merger, and I'll be a bigger part of the markets. You don't approve my merger, and I won't. In fact, I'll start to withdraw from it. And they full well know that if they start withdrawing, Republicans are going to use that as a weapon against Obamacare and say, you see that? Obamacare isn't working. that's why Aetna and the others are forced to withdraw from it, when in reality it was a bargaining chip right now. And by the way, the reality could be both, that they might have been losing money, but they'd make so much money from the merger that they're willing to withstand that loss. Yeah. Or they're making a little bit of money from the Affordable Care Act, but they think it's more valuable to us as a bargaining chip to get that merger, because the merger, by the way, if you're wondering why they're so obsessed with the merger, of course it might lead to more profits through synergies. It might. But what it's really going to lead to is much bigger payouts to the executive team. Yeah. And that's the thing they care about the most.
Yeah, exactly. Now, just a couple of weeks after that letter was sent, the Justice Department did start the process that blocked the merger from actually happening. That's why you see them pulling out, going even farther than what they implied in this threat. They're actually going down to far fewer states. But yes, the merger would result in obviously massive bonuses for the executives. It would also provide them. There's already in a lot of areas basically one large insurance company that calls the shots and has a huge amount of bargaining power at every level of the medical care system, from doctors to all of that stuff, blood labs and everything. If you do these sorts of mergers, then you take away even more of the little remaining competition, and you give yourself even more bargaining power. And so that ultimately is what they want. Now, it might be that they're thinking about long-term profits as opposed to short-term profits. They probably could continue to make money because there are other letters out there implying in speaking to investors and shareholders that they were doing just fine, actually, and that they're manipulating the numbers to imply losses that don't actually exist. But they could think that, well, if we continue the way we're going right now, we'll make some money, but if instead we pull out, we know that the Republicans are going to continue to try to take down Obamacare. If that actually happened, then we would then once again have free reign to do whatever the hell we want. And so they might be playing the long game in that way.
Okay, so this is the moment where I say, I told you. Of course we needed the public option. Because what? We're going to be at the mercy of private companies, and if private companies decide, hey, you know what, I'm going to make bigger money elsewhere, well, then we're all screwed, and the Affordable Care Act isn't going to work, and we're back to the mess that we were in. Well, you wouldn't have this problem if you had a public action. Oh, Aetna, you'd like to pull out. Go ahead and piss off. Okay, then more people will use the public option, which likely would be more affordable anyway, given the history of costs of Medicare versus private insurance. But we don't have the public option, and now Republicans control the Senate and the House, so certainly under Obama we have almost no chance of getting it. I mean, if we retake the Senate for the Democrats and Hillary Clinton wins, she claims she's going to fight for the public option, but likely the Republicans would still have the House, and that's a hell of a fight. Or we could have pushed for the public option when Democrats had an overwhelming majority, had a veto, had a filibuster-proof Senate, they had the House, they had the presidency, they had everything, but they chose half a loaf. So enjoy your half a loaf. We told you you'd be at the mercy of private insurance, and that's exactly where you are now.
Yeah, and look, we're going to have more on the the public option, I should say, in just a minute with Bernie Sanders. But what's ironic here is that very often, I think we rightly see the Republicans being extremely close to the interests of big corporations, although the Democrats certainly get a lot of money from corporations. But in the area of healthcare, a lot of Republicans, especially recently Ted Cruz, are continually fighting against the ACA by saying that it's tax breaks for large health insurance corporations, that it's giveaways to those corporations, even though, and we've been talking about this, them pulling out and the Republicans using it to take down the ACA, that shows the coordination between those companies and the Republican Party, even though they're willing to throw insurance companies under the bus to stop any changes to the ACA happening that would prop it up by, for instance, providing more assistance to people who need to pay for it that aren't making much money, changing some of the regulations and things like that. They pitch it as the Democrats being or having themselves be in the pocketbook of health insurance companies.
So there's one thing I agree with Ted Cruz on. Now the Aetnas of the world are saying there's a totally different part of the act where the people that serve wealthier customers need to work with the people who are serving the poorer customers, and they exchange money back and forth so that the system is sustainable. And the insurance companies are saying, nah, we don't want to exchange the money back and forth. We just want the government to give it to us. Yeah. And Cruz says, no, why should we subsidize giant private insurance companies? Well, that's a very rare moment where I agree with Ted Cruz.
Wow, that does not happen often.
Yeah, so of course we shouldn't privatize these. Why the hell should I pay for it? No. Look, there's an answer, okay? It's not for me to give more money out of my pocket to private insurance companies to subsidize them while I'm still paying for my own health insurance, et cetera, et cetera. The answer is a public option, so they actually have competition, because now they're like, well, I don't care. I don't have to do a goddamn thing. I run this place.
Yeah.
And if I'm let alone losing money, if I'm not making as much gargantuan profits as I please, well, then I'll screw over the rest of you. Why? Because you were stupid enough to give me all the power.
Well, why don't we transition to the public option, because you have a very powerful ally on your side, it turns out.
It does indeed. Okay.
In the wake of Aetna largely pulling out of participation in the Affordable Care Act's state exchanges, Bernie Sanders is once again pushing for a renewed fight over the public option. He says in a letter, in my view, the provision of health care cannot continue to be dependent upon the whims and market projections of large private insurance companies whose only goal is to make as much profit as possible. That is why we need to join every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all as a right, not a privilege. These companies are more concerned with making huge profits than ensuring access to health care for all Americans. And the process he's talking about, the incentives on the part of the health insurance companies he's talking about there, I mean, we see this is perfectly acted out in what Aetna was doing there, threatening that if they didn't get to do a merger that would make them even larger and make even larger profits and bonuses for their executives, then they're not going to be nice and continue to provide health care to all these people who, by the way, we're paying them to do that. And so we need to change those incentives. The public option is a great way to do that. And so the senator said that he would reintroduce his legislation to create a Medicare for All system in the next session of the Senate, hopefully after Democrats regain control of the chamber in the November elections.
Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts on this. So, as I've explained, there's no reason why we should have been at the mercy of the private insurance companies in the first place. President Obama couldn't wait to throw the public option under the bus throughout that entire process of getting the Affordable Care Act passed. I said that he would. I remember progressives at the time, no, how dare you say that about our beloved Obama? He's going to fight tooth and nail for it. And the first opportunity he got, he's like, boom, there it goes under the bus. Okay, didn't fight for it at all.
No, he thought about it, though.
Yeah.
He thought about it.
But to be fair, John, he was going to get a lot of Republican votes by throwing the public option under the bus. And it turns out the number of Republican votes he got was zero. No, none.
But by throwing it under the bus, they only voted to repeal it somewhere between 40 and 50 times. They would have voted to repeal it 500 times.
Oh, yeah, well, that does seem like a fair compromise. So, part of the reason we wanted a public option was so that we would have an option and not have to solely rely on private insurance. By the way, I said at the time, I might use private insurance. But boy, it'd be nice to have an option where I'm not wedded to their profits, right? And it might turn out that they're actually more efficient because the capital markets work better in this case. I mean, in the sense that, financing the insurance companies and the insurance companies are more efficient. It might have turned out that way.
Yeah.
That's why we wanted an option. An option. We didn't want to kill private insurance. That was not my stated intention. And we were very clear about that. What we wanted was...
Yeah, you said it behind the scenes, but that was not your stated intention.
Okay, so now, Bernie Sanders, bless his heart, that quote that John read you is... I know he's saying it to point out the kind of the obvious, but in Washington it's not at all obvious. When he said these companies are more concerned with making huge profits than ensuring access to health care for all Americans, what I wanted to scream, as you know, is, of course, they're companies. It's because this idea in Washington that companies give a shit about us is preposterous. It's insanity. They're designed to maximize profit. That is their legal duty. If you came in and said, hey, you know what, guys, we should really care about X or Y or Z, you know what? They would be legally obligated to fire you as an executive. Go, no. You misunderstood what we're doing here. We're not a goddamn charity. Our job is to maximize profit, every single penny. Okay? Now, if you're a right-winger or a capitalist, you're thinking, goddamn right, that's their job, right? So we all agree. That's their job. It's not a matter of agreement or disagreement. That's in the law. They have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize profit. So this idea that they would care about health care for Americans, of course they don't care. It's not their job to care. They happen to be in the industry of health care, but that's not their job. Their job is to maximize profit.
Yeah, and really they don't care. It could be fucking candy bars or bicycles. They don't care. They're just making a profit. But you're getting all worked up. It's not life or death. They're just producing a profit or surface. It makes total sense with bicycles and candy bars that you would just try to maximize profit. However, when people's health, when their livelihoods, their very lives are on the line, your first priority should be those lives, not your earnings statement.
So I'm a moderate, and right wingers will laugh, but I'll prove it to you. Okay. So in this case, I'm still not sold on single payer, believe it or not. So progressives, go ahead and get angry at me. So my point has always been, look, every society, every one of these governments is socialist, including the United States. It's just a matter of definition, right? So what does socialism mean? It means that the private markets do certain things like candy and sneakers and clothes, etc., and the government does other things. They run the military, the police, the fire departments, and many other things. For example, they run public schools. That's what the government does. So we think it makes sense. You don't want to privatize the schools because then the rich will get everything and the poor will get nothing, which is kind of where we're headed right now, right? Because we have that big system. Now, in healthcare, I think it's a really interesting issue because it is possible that if you incentivize the healthcare system correctly, that capitalism will work better. It'll create the best drugs. It'll reward science, etc. It's also possible that it won't give a damn about us. It'll maximize profits, and far too many of us will die because of that. And so we have to weigh those things. And I thought a great way to weigh that balance and find out who's right about that was to have a public option. So we would have a private option and a public option, and we would test it out. And anyone who cares about markets and competition and capitalism would think that that's a great idea. But that's not what they cared about, because the Republicans, and unfortunately a lot of the Democrats, are not capitalists. They're certainly not socialists. They're corporatists, okay? So the corporations that give tremendous amount of money to these politicians said, no, we're not going to do what's efficient for the American citizens and figure out what keeps them alive. No, we bought you, politician, and what we bought you to do is to maximize our profit. Yeah. So remember, Obamacare was originally Romneycare, which was from the Heritage Foundation. It was a conservative think tank, a right-wing think tank, that came up with this idea. Mitt Romney did it in Massachusetts, and President Obama did it here. Now, it's not all bad. There's a lot of good parts. There's 20 million more people insured today than there were before, okay? But it is progress. But it is not a very progressive plan at all. In fact, when they came up with it in the 1990s, its main criticism was that it was way too conservative. Yeah. Okay?
Thankfully, we moved to the right.
Yeah. And then we moved to the right. So now when Bernie Sanders says, let's go fight for the public option, Hillary Clinton will pretend to agree. President Obama now at this late juncture, after it's way too late, pretends to agree. But he didn't agree when it mattered, because he, along with the rest of them, unfortunately, is a corporatist, and thought, well, I'm going to take my half a loaf or a quarter of a loaf, and hey, private insurance, go ahead and screw me when you want. Oh, God damn it, right at the end of my term, you screwed me. I couldn't have seen that coming. But of course you could have seen it coming. If two-bit talk show hosts like us can see it coming, you should have been able to see it coming. Because I was told by your supporters you play three-dimensional chess. Okay, I'm yet to see your three-dimensional chess, but I'm waiting. Maybe this is fourth-dimensional because you're losing right now as you're headed out the door because of these moves. Okay, so finally, at this late juncture, is it too late? Can we win on the public option? Now, look, there's only one guy running for higher office, senator in Maryland, a person running for Senate in Maryland, I believe, that is running on the idea of public option, campaigning on it. It should be everybody. Now, this is when this dumbass Democrats will go, oh no, I have to run to the right wing. If I run for the public option, I'm going to lose. No. Americans, 2014, you know what Americans like? Freedom, liberty, the ability to choose, to be empowered. So you talk about it not as something that you must do, because that's not what it is. You talk about it as an option. Yeah. And say, imagine if they took away your Social Security or your Medicare. Okay, now those are incredibly popular programs, over 80% in popularity, right? Now, what we're doing is we're giving you a Medicare-like option if you're younger, but you don't have to use it. It's an option. And the Republicans want to take that option away from you? Well, why don't they believe in capitalism? Why don't they believe in free markets? Why don't they believe in freedom? You run on that and you win, but they'll be scared of their own goddamn shadows, and they'll cower away as usual.
The amazing thing is that in this particular case, because it would increase competition and it would lead to more people getting insurance, it would be both pro-choice and pro-life. I think that would bring them together. Apparently not.
So, bottom line is, as usual, Bernie Sanders is right, and probably, as usual, the Democratic Party won't listen to him.
Yeah.
For God's sake, the reason he tests so well in the country, it's not an accident, it's not a fluke, it's not because he hasn't been attacked. It's because the American people agree with them. For once, can you please, for your own sake, listen to the guy. That's why he's so popular.
And today, Robert Reich has a great write-up of why we need a public option. We should go read that. Let's do another story before we go to our first break. Perhaps the biggest story of the day, according to Jane Dude right here. Hillary Clinton's choice of Ken Salazar to head up her presidential transition team has pissed off a lot of progressives, especially environmentalists, and with very good cause. In this video, we're going to explain why. But first, what are the stakes in this presidential transition team? Well, it does a lot of things, but one of the most important is that it identifies, selects, and vets candidates for over 4,000 presidential appointments. And so as we're going through Ken Salazar's history, his qualifications, understand that he's not just helping to figure out when the move-in day is going to be for the White House. We're talking about someone who is going to be extremely influential from the top to the bottom of the next executive branch in terms of finding people. Hopefully people with the right priorities, but perhaps not, as we're going to see. So first, Ken Salazar, who is he? Well, he was Colorado's Attorney General, a U.S. Senator, and Interior Secretary before taking a job back in 2013 as a partner at Wilmer Hale, a law and lobbying colossus that has been called one of the most influential forces in Washington. But you might think, oh, it must be a very progressive lobbying firm. Well, perhaps not. The firm has lobbied for corporations who, in the near future, are likely to have significant business with the next presidential administration. And you're going to identify a couple of these names. Cigna, as it pursues a controversial merger with Anthem. We've seen how those mergers go recently. Delta Airlines, investment firm Lazard Group, insurance giant Liberty Mutual, telecommunications behemoth Verizon, and Newmont Mining. So he's previously worked on behalf of those people. So first of all, before we proceed, we've talked often about the corrosive effect of the revolving door in politics. Is there any more high-profile example than this, perhaps? And maybe someone like Howard Dean, I guess. But being able to be in government, then to lobby on behalf of these companies as they're dealing with government, then to go back into government as they continue to deal, there's no more clear conflict of interest, and yet it's above board, totally legal at this point.
Yes, so the reason why this story is monumentally important is because of the fact that John gave you in the beginning. This person is going to appoint pretty much everybody in the White House.
Or at the very least, choose the people that she'll choose from. And so if he wants to give her 5 people who are all pro-TPP or pro-Verizon or whatever, he can do it.
The people who control the choices are the people who control the outcome. So that's true in China when the Politburo does it. It's true in Iran when the Ayatollahs do it.
Yeah, it's true when the DNC does it.
That's right. And in this case, Hillary Clinton has revealed who she is. She put this guy in charge of 4,000 presidential appointments. 4,000.
Yeah.
So now, he's the perfect corporatist Democrat. You see, in their mind, they think the internet doesn't exist, that people only get their news from TV, so nobody will bother to find out who Ken Salazar is. They'll say, don't worry, we're so progressive, we picked a guy named Ken Salazar, so it's okay, change on the outside, continuity on the inside, right?
Well, I have to say, it is nice to have a little bit of diversity in our government corruption.
So Salazar, and we've been doing this show a long time. I've been talking about him for a long time, back when he was a senator, back when he was Interior Secretary. He's the one that gave BP all those breaks, and then oops, BT totally screwed up the Gulf. And after they screwed up the Gulf and had that disastrous spill, he continued to give them breaks because the guy's a corporatist. There isn't a corporation he hasn't wanted to make love to in his life. Okay. So when he was Interior Secretary, he's like, what deals do you guys need? They're energy companies. Oh, you can't get enough of the energy companies. So I've outlined dozens of deals in the past that Ken Salazar has been involved in where he's like, corporations, you need something, especially if you're in energy. I'm your guy. I'll make that deal, but don't worry, I'm a Democrat, I'm a so-called progressive, and my name is Ken Salazar, so nobody will ask questions.
Yeah, and by the way, like we're gonna focus on some of his past statements about energy policy and fracking in particular, but you don't need to do all the research. We put this picture up for a reason. If you wear that hat and a bowler tie, you're on the side of non-renewable energy. You're not allowed to be anti-fracking and wear that hat. They won't sell it to you. With Salazar, there will also be former Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm, Center for American Progress President Neera Tanden, and former White House National Security Advisor Tom Donilon will also be involved in the transition team. Some of those we have sympathy feelings with, some I've read extremely bad things about the past.
Okay, so let's be clear. So I'm biased towards Governor Jennifer Granholm. I worked with her at Current TV. I think she's an incredibly sweet person. But it's not just that. I haven't seen any research showing that she's connected to lobbyists, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas, by the way, Donilon also connected to lobbying in a significant way. Neera Tanden is, pro-corporate a Democrat as you will find, runs Center for American Progress, which does some wonderful things, including Think Progress, who we quote all the time. So it's not all bad, and these are not comic book characters. They're not just evil, and they are socially liberal, et cetera, right? But our job is to point out what's actually happening. So when you appoint someone like Salazar, and, Donilon and Tanden to some degree, what you're going to get is Donilon's going to say, oh, let's do those deals with the defense contractors. Salazar's going to say, let's do the deals with the energy companies. And off we go. Corporations, payday. Hillary Clinton's in charge.
Okay, so let's read some of the things that he's said in the past, Salazar. We've got 3 for you, and number 3 will blow your mind. Don't go anywhere. The first one has to do with TPP, because this isn't all just about energy. It's also about trade deals. He said the TPP is a strong trade deal that will level the playing field for workers to help middle-class families get ahead. It is also the greenest trade deal ever.
Okay, look. So let's break that down for a second. The TPP is not just black and white either. So there is some pro-environmental regulation stuff in there that you would look and go, oh, well, that's not so bad, okay? And yes, it encourages more trade, which then lifts up the economies of all those countries. I'm not against free trade. I'm a capitalist. I like free trade. Okay, having said that, what it also does is says, multinational corporations, if you dare endanger their profits, can override your local laws. And they can do it with a foreign tribunal, literally an international tribunal, stacked with corporate lawyers who will either one day work for them, or more importantly, will work for those same corporations after they're done with the tribunal.
Exactly.
That is a preposterous system. And again, if you're a business person, if you're a rational person, you know that you have just laid down incentives that will allow the corporations to make more money at our expense. By getting rid of our local laws. That is not an Achilles heel. That is a problem so deep in TPP that it destroys the entire value of the deal.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's nothing good in TPP, but for someone to not understand that, or to understand and go, oh, don't worry, it's wonderful. Trust me in my cowboy hat that TPP is the greenest trade deal we ever did. Well, how about if we pass a local environmental law and they take us to an international court and they win, and then I can't keep the local river unpoisoned.
No, that law gets crushed by an even greener trade deal.
So that comment is absurd, but it's not absurd as to his motivations. He's a lobbyist. It's preposterous that he doesn't call himself one, and he's an advisor and a counselor and all those wonderful terms. No, he's a lobbyist.
Yeah.
He gets paid for that opinion. He wrote that on behalf.
Irish doctor is now up to date.
All right, back on the Young Turks. CNN used a couple of Young Turks clips on one of the reports.
Really?
Yeah.
Positive or?
Oh, you didn't see it? Oh, I sent it to you. Okay. We're going to show it in the post game. No, very positive. Like we're almost like we're Led Daily Show kind of thing. Oh. Okay.
By the way, I saw, I think Kyle tweeted about it. It was a graphic that CNN had put up about how they're performing in digital video. That said they were number one in every metric or whatever, which I don't think that's true. So the first thing is they're number one on every metric. There was like one other fact. And then the third thing was BuzzFeed down in all of these things. Why are you shitting on BuzzFeed at like the very top of your, like them specific? There's no other references to any other media companies. It's just BuzzFeed, fuck BuzzFeed.
You know why they do that, by the way. So you might be wondering, like, what? Why CNN versus BuzzFeed? What do they care? No, they're trying to compete for advertisers.
Yeah.
So that's them saying, not to you guys, because you don't care. You're not like, oh, I'm either going to watch CNN or I'm going to watch BuzzFeed. Nobody thinks that way, right?
CNN's cat videos suck.
So, no, they're saying to advertisers, come to us, come and see.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're like, we're better.
Please believe me.
That's coming up in the second hour. Anyway, I'm going to show you that CNN piece in the post game, tytnetwork.com/join. We're in the middle of a member drive, although that's going to be a long one. Anyway, tytnetwork.com/join. Okay, John Connor writes in, this is what happens when you make medicine a for-profit business. Universal health care is needed. Come join the civilized world. I hear you, John. I think John's from Ireland. Big Slice Mahoney says, if I've learned anything from Harry Potter, it's that people named Salazar tend to do evil things, like murder Muggleborns or fracking.
Roughly the same level of evil.
Yes, and Sarah Johnson says, I really think the Clintons think we don't know how to use the internet because these are open slaps from our campaign again. See, but that's the thing, Sarah. It's not really an open slap. It's just them being who they are. You know, Tiger doesn't change his stripes, so it's
Especially not when it's up by 9 points.
yeah. And the more that it's up by 9 points, the more it thinks, hey, go ahead and look at my stripes. What do I give a shit? I'm not even going to hide in the tall grass.
Yeah.
Because I'm a tiger. What are you going to do? I'm going to eat you anyway.
Yeah,
right?
or some other tiger-related metaphor.
So, look, all the anti-Trump stuff we do, is not, even though some people interpret it this way in a maddening way, is not an endorsement of Hillary Clinton. Like, because Trump is terrible does not mean, logically, that Hillary Clinton will be wonderful. No, that's not how logic works.
Yeah.
Okay?
And you can be really, really bad and still marginally better than someone else.
That's right. I know, it's mind-bending.
Yeah.
Stay with us.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the next story.
Yeah. I was going to make a Harry Potter reference, but I'll avoid it.
Thanks, guys.
Electric cars are becoming more and more common with every passing month. I swear, it's actually happening. But soon the Netherlands might actually accelerate that process in an unprecedented new way. They're currently considering banning the sale of new petrol and diesel-based cars in just the next 10 years. But should they be able to do that? Does it actually make sense to do that? You're going to find out today on the TYT Supreme Court.
Wow. Court is in session.
I haven't done that in a long time. We do this more often. Yes, so the initial proposal, this is what they end up on. The initial proposal called for an outright ban of all petrol and diesel cars, but was eventually modified so the ban only affected the sale of new petrol and diesel cars. Traditional cars already in use will still be allowed to run on the streets.
Are they not merciful?
They were going to ban just all of them in 10 years. All of them. That's a lot of cars.
See, that's what happens when you move the Overton window to the left.
Exactly. You go crazy. Well, we'll see. We haven't decided yet. Now, this is not just some random theory. The proposal has already passed the lower house of the Netherlands Parliament. It now needs to pass through the Dutch Senate. The backer of it thinks that it will, but the backer of every bill in history has said that. Now, bear in mind, the Netherlands already has one of the lowest levels of CO2 emissions from new cars in the EU. They're just trying to go a little bit farther. And they're not the only person to consider this, the only country. In June, Norway's main political parties debated a similar plan to stop selling gasoline-powered cars by 2025. That has been shelved, but they do have some proposals that are advancing right now that would levy extra fees for gas-based cars to make it more financially difficult to buy them. They won't outright ban them. But should you ban the sale of gas-powered cars?
So, France is doing, I think, something perhaps even more extreme because they're worried about pollution and also climate change, and they're saying that you won't be able to go into Paris with a car made before 1997 because it does not have the proper ability to, control the amount of pollution it puts into the air. Which I actually think disadvantages the poor a little too much.
They're more likely to have the older
More likely to have the older cars, exactly, right? So I think it is a balancing act. But the UK, by the way, now there's a study out by Nissan of all places, of all companies, that says that they will have more electric charging stations than gas stations by the year 2020. So Europe is heading over there at 100 miles an hour. Okay, so on the issue of what the Netherlands and Norway are doing, totally on board. And if you pass those laws, you eventually head in a better direction. Now, there's some studies that show that more people die from pollution from cars than car accidents. Now, that's a startling study. I don't want to get into the debate of that study here, but okay, well, it's an interesting data point, right? Yeah. So, but if you say ban all cars that are run on petrol or oil, no, that's going too far.
Too far?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you do with all those cars? You buy them back? Tax write-offs? I mean, yeah, it's a lot. That's a big portion of a lot of people's wealth. I don't know about in the Netherlands specifically, but here, not that I own my car, I don't. But
yeah, I mean, look, I think about when I had my Pontiac Grand Am for 15 years, right? Yeah. And it was paid off, and I had no money. And if you pass a law that says, okay, now you've got to buy a new car that runs on electricity, which, by the way, costs more, at least it does in the short term. The car does. In the long term, it pays off. But at that time, I didn't have time for the long term. I had no money in the short term.
Yeah.
So I'm voting no on that. What I view to be the
you're already ruling.
No, yeah. So don't get me wrong. I love what Netherlands and Norway are doing. I'm voting yes on their actual proposals. But if you say ban them all, I vote no.
Okay, so banning the sale of them, you are on board for it.
Well, actually, sorry.
That's what they're banning.
Yeah, no.
Or it hasn't yet passed, but that's what they're proposing.
Yeah.
You'll still be able to drive it if you already own it, but you won't be able to sell new ones. Yeah, I'm amazed that you're conflicted. I'm surprised. I did not think you'd be conflicted about it.
No, I am conflicted about it. I'm sorry. I got Netherlands and Norway confused for a second. I'm definitely in favor of the Norway one. The Netherlands one, I'm definitely split on. So let me hear you guys out on it, and I'll reserve my right to vote on that.
So one of the things that I'm going to figure out in the next few minutes how I'm going to rule, but I don't necessarily like, as big of a progressive and as big of a lib as I am, too much government influence over the price of things or the availability of things does make me uncomfortable because growing up I read Ayn Rand. But that said, there are a lot of products that we control. Like, you can't buy certain types of light bulbs. You can't buy certain types of appliances. They have to be energy efficient in a particular way. Cars have to have catalytic converters. You can't use the sorts of dirty engines we had 50 years ago. These sorts of things we adapted to because we knew that they were horrible for the environment. And when it comes to safety, whether of individuals or perhaps of the human race in the long run, it might be that that's an area where we should control it. And so, in that case, I mean, if we are literally talking about the greatest threat in the history of our world to human civilization and how difficult it will be to deal with it and how resistant so many people are, it might be that only drastic government action will be able to stop it. And so, I don't know. So maybe ban it.
I guess that's the distinction I'm trying to draw, apparently inartfully, is that if you've already got the car, I don't want the government taking it away from you and telling you can't use it.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe ban the repair of those cars. They break down fast.
It's like, that's like the Chris Rock idea. Don't take the guns away, make the bullets $1,000. Right? So, but in terms of not being able to sell them, see, the reason why that's a powerful argument, even though it takes away some degree of liberty, is that the oil industry and the cars that run on oil socialize the losses, right? Yeah. So the loss that we all get from climate change, let alone pollution, is borne by everyone, not just the people driving those cars.
Yeah.
And so that's also not fair. And you could even make an argument, not free market. You should have your gains privatized, but you should also have your losses privatized. So maybe there's a way of doing that without banning the cars, but saying, hey, they're going to cost a lot more because it's going to cost all of us across the world a lot of money to deal with the ramifications of climate change. Kiribati might be underwater. That's like an entire country underwater in 30 years.
Yeah.
So are you going to go pay for Kiribati?
Yeah. But ironically, that will effectively make it impossible to drive gas-powered cars there.
That's true, but they're also going to ban gas-powered boats. Justice Jackson, what say you?
We're the men of TYT.
Okay, good.
The smell of a combustible engine, gas and fire, boom, a controlled explosion, propelling your car forward like a real man, sounding like it's growling. That's what I'm talking about. You guys are crazy. I love old cars. This isn't a secret. I mean, I'm all about anything that's older than 1975 and better. But I understand. Obviously, there's fact and scientific things around here. But
Science. At TYT, we say science.
Okay, today playing the role of Clint Eastwood on the Young Turks, J.R. Jackson.
Where is the pussy generation?
Okay, tell me about your Gran Torino. Go ahead.
That's nice car. So I mean, I get it. So I think there's just a way to do it. You have to implement so many things to do it in 10 years. Like again, you guys said, there's people that haven't, there's cars that are probably being made. If there's a plan that's going to happen, first of all, you have to make these electric cars useful because they're fucking useless right now. You drive
like
25,
the Chevy
you drive 25 miles and you're like, oh, I guess I'm just stranded.
That's not how it works.
So where are all the electric charging stations?
3 years.
Well, like I said,
Yes, I can point out. I can point out
in the middle of Nebraska?
Okay, hold on.
No.
But I got to address this real quick. Okay, because see, that's why laws are important. And so in Europe, they have passed laws to make it those electric charging stations much more available. So you don't have that issue, right? So if you want to say, okay, then let's pass. Then according to your argument, we should pass more laws here in America, make them more available, so they're more practical.
Yes. As long as there's no, this has to be a full thought process. So again, I'm joking about the real man stuff. There's plenty of women who like real cars too.
You're the worst. You apparently are J.R. Ray. I don't know what that's about, but it's fun. Okay.
So anyway, again, you have to implement all these extra things. I mean, we have smog laws in certain states. California is one of them because obviously how polluted we are. But then there's a cutoff. Did you know from 1976 and older, you don't have to follow the smog thing. You can pump as much pollution as you want because they know it's probably too hard to get things on those cars to make them a certain standard to pass for law. So there's all these elements and cutoffs you have to implement. And it'll be fine. And also, if your system of newer cars, which I enjoy, I'm all for progression of cars. If it's going to be what it's going to be and it's efficient and good and useful, it's going to automatically phase on over DS anyway. Nobody wants to drive an old car that doesn't have Bluetooth anymore. I'm talking it's high rate things. If you go back to old school, people are like, oh, just be for nostalgia purposes, and you just chill out, have your car on the weekend or something, and you can drive your other car when it's useful because it's electric.
I totally got it. Justice Jackson voting for climate change, okay, and against the Dutch. Okay, what say you, Supreme Court Chief Justice Godoy?
As much as I love vintage cars, I'd say I'm for it. Like, we have to start somewhere already. I think if they want to lead the way and fucking see how it goes as a testing, I'm totally for it. Because nobody's going to do it. Like, maybe if they start offering more incentives on purchasing electric vehicles, more to make that easier for the next decade, maybe if you know, something. But I just feel we need to start. Somebody needs to do it.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to vote against us not killing ourselves. Again, I'm joking. So, of course, but I think there's a lot of things you have to do to make sure that it's easy and normal and not.
But do you think this is too extreme by 2025?
I think it's probably too quick. Just because it pays for what you have to do with other things.
Can I roll?
Yeah, of course.
And then you'll be able to
tied 1-1 now between Jesus and Jared. Yeah.
I actually wasn't that sure. He's inspired me.
Yeah, me
This
too.
is a dude who loves big Harleys, and he's willing to make the change. He's right. We just have to fucking do it. Sorry, we just have to bleeping do it. This could be our moonshot. We need to, you know what? No, we're going to the moon. We're going to the moon this decade. We're not waiting. We're going to do it. I don't care how much money it takes. We're going to pass the laws. We're going to change people. We're going to educate people. We can do that. And our cars will be cooler. They'll be quieter. I love my electric car. You should look into the Chevy Bolt coming out soon, over 200 miles of electric only range. And I think that we can protect while doing it. So I'm in favor of the Dutch. And even if it goes horribly, it's not here. It's over there. It's in my car.
Okay, so we just let the okay. It's 3-1. We're gonna let the Dutch proceed. Okay, they're gonna be so relieved. For two main reasons. One is I thought of in the middle of this conversation an analogy of what California did with smoking, and I remember being against it at the time, and I remember being wrong eventually, proven wrong eventually. And I thought, really, they're going to ban the smoking in restaurants? You have to remember, I grew up in a time where everybody smoked in restaurants.
Yeah.
I'm like, that seemed like that was against freedom and liberty and choice and all that stuff. But in reality, it was, I wasn't making the choice to smoke. You were, but I was consuming your smoke, and it was killing me. And now we're basically doing that on a mass scale with the planet. So if you're making the choice to kill us all, I vote no. And so California was right. They banned it from restaurants and they made it more restricted. And you know what happened? We live a lot longer now, and it was a much better. It's a much better system. It was the right thing to do. And sometimes you've got to take a macro action in favor of health for everyone. And the second reason is Jesus was persuasive. At some point, a Dutch boy's got to take his finger out of the dam and see what happens. So Netherlands, you go get them. Okay.
I'm surprised. I thought I would be the only vote. Actually, I wasn't even sure that I would vote for it. I thought we'd go 0 for it. Anyway, okay, let's have a little fun. Donald Trump has now gone on record as being against intelligence, perhaps because he doesn't have much experience with it. Classic loser Donald. Yeah, no, he actually did say that. You're going to see the video in just a second. Speaking specifically about the U.S. use of intelligence, especially for foreign policy, Donald Trump, not a fan. Let's watch.
Do you trust intelligence?
Not so much from the people that have been doing it for our country. I mean, look what's happened over the last 10 years. Look what's happened over the years. I mean, it's been catastrophic. And in fact, I won't use some of the people that are sort of your standards, just use them. Very easy to use them. But I won't use them because they've made such bad decisions. I mean, you look at Iraq, you look at the Middle East, it's a total powder keg. If we would have never touched it, it would have been a lot better. I mean, we would have been much better off, on top of which we spent probably $4 trillion. Nobody even knows what we've spent. So, no, I have great people in General Flynn is one of them.
We're going to get to that in 1 second. That is his normal sort of just rambling BS. Like the intelligence agent, it's not like the intelligence analysts at the CIA voted, you know what, we should go to Iraq. No, BS stupid politicians who are in the pocket of defense contractors, that sort of thing, energy companies. It's the politicians who choose to use the intelligence in bad ways. And certainly there have been gaps in intelligence, but simply saying I'm not going to use them? What does that even mean? He's just going down the line insulting every aspect of the human, the military. He doesn't like POWs. Now all the intelligence analysts. A lot of them are in the field in incredibly dangerous situations right now. They're stupid. I'm not even going to use them.
You don't talk about gaps in intelligence. You're going to be talking about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So, look, here's a sophisticated way of looking at and criticizing the intelligence agency. Saying, I'm surprised we haven't gotten enough information about the whereabouts of ISIS leadership in Syria and Iraq. I wish our intelligence agencies were handling that better. Here are my, points and counterpoints, perhaps, on the wiretapping that we're doing. So I wish the intelligence agencies were doing more of this or doing more of that, and explain why. But he has a gap in intelligence, so he doesn't understand any of that. So he goes, me think intelligence bad, but not intelligence good. Okay, not going to use, what is it? It doesn't mean anything that you're not going to use the intelligence agency. Of course you're going to use your intelligence agency. What are you going to do? You're going to fire everyone in the CIA, everyone in the DIA. You're going to fire every National Security Council. You're going to fire everybody. You're going to fire everybody. Yeah. And then who do you have? And then you're going to turn around and go, oh, well then where the hell is ISIS? What should we do, Christy? Well, you fired everybody. No, of course he's not going to do that. He just doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah. So part of what he's referring to there is at least 50 Republican national security experts, including Dick Cheney, came out and said, we will not be supporting Donald Trump. He's a disaster. And so Trump is conflating the two things because he's getting an intelligence briefing. but he's saying, which is from actual professionals that are they're not politicians like Dick Cheney and appointment people who were appointed that signed the letter of at least 50, now grown to almost 100.
Yeah.
But he's saying, I won't be using any of them. I won't be using any of them. Referring to those guys.
Yeah.
I'm almost
because
certain.
he thinks intelligence, he thinks all levels, doesn't matter.
Yeah, and he's thinking those guys came out against me, so I hate them.
Yeah.
I hate all the people in the intelligence.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. But I do want to get to why in this particular case he's a loser. So in this, he's defending why he has to have Lieutenant General Michael Flynn at his side at the intelligence briefings, which he's now going to be at. And if you're curious what goes on in these meetings, you'll soon find out on his Twitter account. I'm sure that he'll be tweeting out all the details. He already spilled some secret base, I think, that we were funding in the country. But anyway, so in the second section, this video, he's going to talk about why he wants Lieutenant General Flynn there.
First classified briefing. Are you bringing in General Flynn and why?
Because I think he's a great guy. I've gotten to know him. He's been a real fan of mine and defender of mine, and he's a terrific guy, terrific general, tough, smart. Feels like I do about illegal immigration in particular. He wants to make sure the right people are coming into our country.
So painfully dumb. Look, just say he's an expert in security and intelligence.
Yes.
That's why I'm bringing him to the intelligence briefing. That'd be a fine argument to make. It feels a little like you're using a crutch, like you don't really know what the hell you're doing, that's why you're a loser, and you're like, I don't know, Daddy, help me, something, right? But okay, at least you can justify it if you say he's an expert, because he's been a big fan of mine.
Well, that's the thing. He cannot compliment people for their strengths or qualities. The only way he compliments is saying, he's a fan of mine, he defends me, he feels like I do. No, he knows something. I don't agree with him on a ton of stuff. But he knows some things. He has experience. Talk about his experience. Don't just talk about the similarities you have. But the reason he's a loser is not just because he's surrounding himself with a sycophantic general. It's that the general is being sent as his handler. And Rudy Giuliani has a quote that perfectly demonstrates that. Giuliani said he should take General Flynn with him to be able to ask critical questions.
Oh, that's so sad.
This is the art of being a good executive. If I were going to a national security briefing as a presidential candidate, and I've had top security clearances as Associate Attorney General, U.S. Attorney, even as mayor during September 11th in particular, he does remember that happened. I would take one or two experts with me to critically analyze it. But what Rudy Giuliani understands is what we understand, and what Trump apparently implicitly understands, is that if he goes in there, he's not going to know anything. He's not going to understand anything that's being said to him. He's not going to know any of the individuals, any of the groups, the stakes, the consequences, the history. He needs an adult in the room with him to take it into something that can fit in his little head.
This tiny, tiny mind. Okay, but at the end of the day, I actually am glad, as much as I totally disagree with Flynn, I'm glad that there's at least an adult in the room who's going to be able to say, it's okay, Donald. It's okay. No, these are not the intelligence people against you. No, they're just trying to tell you where the dangers are. Oh, no, don't get scared, Donald. Don't get scared. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, he's like Lenny. You gotta handle him
Give him a
carefully.
rabbit. But the rabbit's his daughter.
Okay, no. Okay, he's got to have adult supervision at all times.
Yes, exactly. Two final thoughts or concerns. One, there's a very real chance that this information could end up going to Russia. Like, considering all the ties of his campaign with Russia and pro-Russian Ukraine, how do we know that information won't go back? And secondly, he said, starting like a year ago, by the time Election Day happens, by the time I'm sworn in, I'm going to know everything. I'm going to know so much it's going to make your head spin. We've passed a significant portion of all that time. He doesn't know anything that he didn't know back then. When is he going to start the learning process? Like on the last weekend? Is he going to cram for the presidency?
Well, we already know because the reports out from his own staffers saying he doesn't like to read. That's why he tries to get all his news from cable news.
Maybe if they did the intelligence briefings in graphic novel format.
Okay, now, you know what? At least diversify his base of knowledge. Get him to start watching the Young Turks. You might learn something.
Yeah.
All right, we're over, but we have to do the last story. So let's do it as quickly as we can.
Okay. Donald Trump's campaign just experienced its monthly shakeup and added new talent to the campaign. And one name in particular is generating some controversy. Breitbart News Executive Chairman Stephen K. Bannon will temporarily step down from his role with Breitbart News. Join the team as the campaign CEO, while Republican strategist Kellyanne Conway will be promoted to campaign manager. Donald Trump said this about those two. I have known Steve and Kellyanne both for many years. They are extremely capable, highly qualified people who love to win and know how to win. I believe we're adding some of the best talents in politics with experience and expertise needed, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, Breitbart, the head of Breitbart News there, has been extremely favorable towards Donald Trump. It's no surprise now. Now, this is the guy that keeps saying that he doesn't trust the media is so unfair, but he does seem to be surrounding himself with favorable media figures. And so the question then goes to Cenk, is this what's needed to turn around his campaign?
Well, it can't hurt because, like, he was already at, I think he was at the bottom. No, he can go lower, don't get me wrong. He can definitely go lower. But he was on a trajectory that's downward. So might as well try something new.
Yeah.
Because, you could have gone, at this point, if the election were today, he would get slaughtered. He'd get wiped off the map. So he's got to try. I would, at this point, if I was advising him, be like, sure, screw it, go for it. Right? I would have actually brought in Roger Ailes. Okay, no, I'm not kidding. Now, look, would I have done that as a person who is a decent human being? Of course not. They're all monstrous people, especially Roger Ailes. But Ailes knows how to run a campaign. Ailes knows the media.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Trump is already a misogynist and a maniac, so bringing out another misogynist and maniac doesn't really hurt you as much as it would with any decent human being.
You think? Yeah.
So I'd go full boat. I'd do the full Ailes if I was Trump. So this is Trump saying, look, man, I can't pull this thing off even if I wanted to, of being a decent person, a rational person, a guy who can run a disciplined campaign, a competent campaign. That's what Manafort tried to get me to do. I couldn't do it. So he literally had like a green eggs and ham kind of dissertation at one point saying like, I am who I am.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to pivot. I don't want to watch pivot.
And by the way, there's a little bit of truth in what he said, because he said, look, pivoting is a form of lying. I've said that. That's true. So he's just going to give you Trump. And you would think it's not much to give you. So he's, don't get me wrong, he's still very likely to lose. He's in a giant hole, and these guys are all, don't know politics that much. The guy from Breitbart never worked in politics. But they're going to go full populist. They're going to go nationalist. They're going to take all the dark stuff. Somebody said that this guy knows how to work the dark arts.
Bannon,
referring to Bannon,
he uses the term run as a full nationalist.
Yes.
So give that to the court too.
Right. So they're either going to get landslided, or maybe they make a little bit of a comeback. Because running as a nationalist is not the right answer, but running as a populist is the right answer. Maybe they get lucky and accidentally wind up on the right rail. And they're like, oh my God, more likely they'll wind up in the third rail. Okay? But I might accidentally find the populist rail that he's been looking for the whole time and hit it.
They might. The reason I think that it might not work out that way, I'm going to get into right here, because while this is a good day for Bannon, not everybody in the campaign is going to be happy about these changes. Paul Manafort is going to be one of those. Aides told the Washington Post that Trump has felt controlled and boxed in. They're explaining why he did all this. By staffers urging him to tone down his rhetoric and pivot towards the general election audience. Paul Manafort will stay on as campaign chairman and chief strategist, but his internal role would be diminished. Well, if he's chief strategist, is it really being diminished? I think that's just in name only at that point. So here's why I don't think that this is actually going to work. Because Trump is saying, Manafort is trying to control me, he's trying to box me in, he's trying to stop me from being me. And we've tried that, and it hasn't worked. But they haven't tried that. The past couple of weeks, he's been the most Trumpian that he has been the whole campaign. Picking fights with the Khan family, saying that Hillary Clinton should be assassinated. He has been more out and out, like a crazy person, than he has been since the beginning of the campaign. Manafort apparently didn't just come up with a good strategy, he didn't even get him to use the strategy. And so what does it mean to be him now if the previous thing was an example of him pivoting? I don't think he ever actually tried to pivot. I don't think that he's capable of it. But if this is going to signal some sort of return to what he thinks he's supposed to be, then that's going to be scary and probably not very effective for him.
So, look, those are all great points. He never did the pivot, so it's not Manafort's fault. He tried and he couldn't get him to do it. The only thing I can give Trump there is that maybe he felt so boxed in trying to pivot, which he was not capable of, that he, overreacted in the opposite direction. Well, let's just kill her. So God help us all, because we're now going to find out what letting Trump be Trump means.
I mean, that's funny.
Because if he wasn't Trump enough yet, oh boy, buckle up.
Prepare to Trump the Trump.
So that's what we're going to get here. And by the way, it might also have something to do with the fact that Manafort might be in a world of trouble. He probably should have registered as a foreign agent, and it looks like he funneled $2.2 million, according to the Associated Press, to lobbying firms here for the pro-Russian Ukrainian government before they were deposed. That violates several laws, could get up to 5 years in jail. I don't know if anyone powerful ever gets jail time or is ever prosecuted. But, I mean, what a great symbol of how corrupt our overall system is, because one of the lobbying firms that he funneled the money to is the Podesta Group, run by Tony Podesta, who's the brother of John Podesta, who's the campaign chair for Hillary Clinton. So, Russians are, trying to influence both sides and probably succeeding. Don't forget all the money that the Russians and their allies funnel to the Clinton Foundation. So, both sides are, unfortunately, lead to similar results. Trump just gets there in a much crazier way, and what he's now just promised to do is to up the ante and get even crazier and Trumpier. By the end, he might be the Trumpest of all. Okay, all right, guys. John, thank you. Appreciate it. Anna's back in the next hour, and you will find out what's happening with this lady.
You get your ass the fuck up off this train with that freaky shit.
What is that freaky shit, and why do you need to take it off the train? You will find out when we come back.
We talk about TYT Army being so strong. Usually they help us run our show. Now they're going to help us run the country.
Like this.
It's time that we reclaim democracy for the people.
We had a huge victory for Wolfpack.
When Lincoln said this is a country by, of, and for, he said of the people, not of corporations.
Our representatives don't represent us. Whoa! Democracy!
United!
We are!
We are!
Too strong! There's thousands of volunteers, and you can be among them.
With Wolfpack, the mission is so clear.
Money is killing our democracy. 96% of Americans want it. When you get the power back, oh, that feels good. This is just the beginning. Let's go get them, man. Up and at them. Knock, knock. We're coming for them! Wolf-pack.com.
I'm just doing what's right.
Yes, go back to
Mexico's going to pay for the wall.
so good.
Very, very big price.
Welcome to Nerd Alert, everyone. We have an exciting show for you this week.
Glad to communicate with all the nerds out there.
What's beautiful about geeks is geeks are open to everybody. That's the thing. It's like, so you got your thing, I got my thing. It's like, and if you're not, then you're a bad geek.
Why did you choose Battlestar Galactica? Because it's awesome? No kidding. The floor is not lava. Yoshi! Ah, my nightmare! And there's one very special characteristic that many men have been interested in. Penis eyes. What's up, friend?
Yeah, I know that curve.
And that movie is the Valentine's Day romantic classic, Deadpool. Who should we trust here? Our hearts? Our heads?
Yes.
J.J. Abrams? Isn't that right? How can you improve pizza? With math, of course.
If we spilled goldfish crackers on the floor and we didn't want to clean them up, so we thought that if we stomped on them an infinite amount of time, they would mathematically cease to exist.
We are ready for a Wonder Woman movie. Oh wait, no, let me correct myself.
We were ready for a Wonder Woman movie years ago.
I love my job.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Michael Gibb writes in, I'm having a lot of trouble with tweets. I'll just read one. If Donald Trump became president, the United States would need to be encased in child safety packaging.
Wait, what would have to be encased in child safety packaging?
The United States, the entire country. That's funny. I lied. I'm going to read one more. Booty Slice writes in, leave it to a guy named Jesus to guilt us into doing the right thing. Gosh.
Why? What did he do?
Davos got a good tweet. Okay. We were voting on whether the Netherlands should ban cars that run on gas by 2025. And he said, we got to get started. It's getting too late.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why is that even a debate?
Yeah, why are you even debating it, JR?
Oh, it's because you like muscle cars and shit, right? Yeah, whatever.
It's gonna happen anyway. I mean, whatever he has.
Okay, guys, the biggest liar. I'm reading two more. Davos Seaworth says, come on, Jay, climate change means we can't afford, quote, the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Hashtag no more oil. Hashtag MLK. Damn. You threw an MLK quote at me. But remember, I voted the right way at the end. Okay? And finally, Big Slice Mahoney says, oh my god, that JR rated graphic is the best thing. Whoever made that deserves all the awards. I don't know who made it, hence no awards will be given. Oh, there it is. Okay. Alright, that's funny. Get it R-rated, JR. It took me a while. I got it. Alright, let me show you the thermometer. How are we doing? It's a membership drive for the rest of lifetime. No, for the rest of the year.
Not doing so great. Gotta keep it real.
You think so?
Terribly, yes.
I don't think so.
Yeah, terribly.
Wow. She's coming out hard. Okay, that growth over the last couple of days not so bad.
No, by the way, this is our fault, not anyone else's fault. So I hope anyone who's joining as members and supporting us doesn't feel like I'm pointing to you. You guys are freaking awesome and I love you. I am not pleased with myself at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we started at 22,572. We're at 22,864 2 days later. But for Casper, who is a perfectionist, not enough. But you know what? Maybe we can make Casper happy. Can I see 23,000? Uh-oh, it has begun. Can I see 23,000?
By the way, this has nothing to do with trying to increase membership. I actually want to do this because our members are our family. I want to find a way to stream the wedding for our members.
Wow, you're
so that's not crazy. You guys are fam. You know what I mean?
All right, let's.
So,
I mean, that's crazy because
I can't promise it because I have to talk to our production staff to make sure we have the technology available to make it happen. But it's something that I want to do.
The issue is technology.
Yeah.
So we're going to look into the technology of it and get back to you. Anyway, TYTnetwork.com/join. Can I see 23,000? All right, what's up next? Go.
All right.
Dracaris.
Oftentimes, people like to make the argument that places like marijuana dispensaries lead to more crime. But that's actually a common misconception because marijuana dispensaries usually employ enough security to ensure that they do not attract more crime. Surprisingly enough, though, what does attract a lot of criminal behavior is Walmart. And part of the reason why is because they're so obsessed with saving costs that they have cut their workforce, cut down on security, and gotten rid of other safety measures that actually prevented crime at their stores previously. So let me give you some examples, and this is based on a great report by Bloomberg that I highly recommend you guys read. So apparently they have done away with quite a bit. Greeters have been removed, taking away a deterrent to theft at the poorest entrances and exits. Self-checkout scanners replaced many cashiers. Walmart added stores faster than it hired employees. The company has one worker for every 524 square feet of retail space, a 19% increase in space per employee from a decade ago. Now, interestingly enough, a lot of people like to compare Walmart and Target, but there are actually significant differences between the two. In fact, a Florida police captain says, Target doesn't have problems with crime. Part of it may be the lower prices at Walmart or where Walmart is located, but when I walk into Target, I see uniformed security or someone walking around up front. You see no one at Walmart. It just seems like an easy target. So let me give you some numbers so you guys can kind of understand the scope of all of this. Now, this report is following a huge headline indicating that there was one Walmart store where authorities busted a meth lab right underneath in like a gigantic 6-foot-tall pipe. There was a meth lab in it. How do people have a meth lab under their store and have no idea? But anyway.
Let's be fair. That's slightly badass.
Okay. All right. reports from dozens of stores suggest the number of petty crimes committed on Walmart properties nationwide this year will be in the hundreds of thousands. But petty crimes, although they are an issue, isn't really the biggest problem here. More than 200 violent crimes, including attempted kidnappings and multiple stabbings, shootings, and murders, have occurred at the nation's 4,500 Walmarts this year, or about one a day, according to an analysis of media reports. And by the way, that's according to an analysis of media reports. I'm sure many of these crimes have gone unreported, so it's an underestimate.
Mm-hmm. So, look, there's a reason why they're doing this, and so they're making a calculation. One part of the calculation is we're going to crunch the numbers, and if we can get our number of employees per square foot down, since they have so many stores, they actually save a tremendous amount of money. On security guards alone, according to one calculation, they save $500 million if they don't have security guards. That's not nothing. Their profits last year were about $14 billion. So now you think $14 billion in profit, not bad. Maybe you could afford security. But that's not the way corporations work. A public corporation must maximize profit. So they think, no, $14 billion is better than $13.5 billion. Now, mind you, if it gets bad enough, people will stop coming to your stores. It'll be counterproductive, and then you'll make less money next year. But a lot of times they play a short-term game because they got a lot of the executives, their compensation is based on the last quarter. So I gotta get my performance up so that I can get my bonus. And if it blows up on someone else, if that meth lab if the Walmart blows up on someone else next quarter, well, that's a sad day for them and not for me. I already got my bonus. And it's also the greed of the board, which should be thinking more long term.
No, but the boards never think about the long term. Investors never think about the long term. Okay, let's keep it real. Investors invest because they're looking to make a profit on their investment, and that's it. Okay, they don't care about the employees. 250,000 employees are needed to take a tiny chip at this problem, right? And that still wouldn't solve the problem. 250,000 employees. But they don't want to hire 250,000 employees because the board doesn't believe that they should spend the money on hiring these workers to deter all of this crime. In fact, what they want to do, okay, and you see this at corporations throughout the country, is they have a very limited workforce and they reshuffle the employees, right? And then they have the employees work 58 jobs and make the same amount of money, right? So the employees are frustrated, morale is low, crime is up, and it's a terrible business model. But the way we set the system up in this country, makes it totally permissible,
So let me give more details and context here. So they have about 1 million people who work at Walmart across the country. So what the analysts are saying is, if they added 250,000 part-time employees, they could actually alleviate a lot of these concerns. But if they do, of course, their costs will go up. And so they're maniacally driven for keeping their costs down in the short term. I'm going to get to one other huge reason in a second. But in terms of investors, no, investors care about making money in the long term. The executives are more worried about what's going to happen in the next quarter because their compensation is usually tied to how they perform. They perform the short term per quarter and certainly over the course of 1 year, right? But a lot of the board members these days for a lot of corporations, and this is a general point, not about Walmart as much as it is about the general economy, are private equity guys who think I've got to get in and get out within 3 years so I can get return on investment. So if I stay in for 7 years, 12 years, well then I got to make too much money based on my financing. I'm simplifying here, but it's generally true. They got to get in, they got to get out. And so oftentimes what they'll do is they'll suck all the life out of a company and then dump it, right? So because they made their return in those 3 years, they don't give a damn what happens to that company right after they leave.
But is that what's happening with Walmart?
So with Walmart, it's a little bit different and more complicated because a lot of the Walton family is still on the board, and the Walton family's been running it for so long. So in their case, it's just a little bit extra greed. But now here comes the second huge part of this equation that no one's talking about. And it's a great piece by Bloomberg. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll have the link below. You should read it. It's a long article we're trying to summarize for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but this is not in the article. What Walmart does, and the Walton family is perfectly aware of this, and the board is, is they move their costs onto taxpayers. They do this in every regard. So they go, oh, I don't pay my employees well enough? Well, then they got to go on food stamps. Great. You just subsidize my employees. I don't pay them enough or I give them, have them work just the right amount of hours so I don't have to give them health insurance. Great. Now you've got to pick up the tab as taxpayers. They got to go get health insurance through the government. And in this case, it's actually the same story, although they didn't pick up on it here, which is if I don't hire security guards, the cops got to do my job for me. And that's why if you read the Bloomberg piece, it's the cops that are complaining. If you're Republican conservative, you love cops, right? It's the cops in all these towns in Florida, and Tulsa, and all these different states and cities going, for God's sake, have my police departments at the Walmart, and the taxpayers are picking up the bill. And Walmart thinks, exactly, I just got you to pay for some of my workforce, so that's why I got to make $14 billion instead of $13.5 billion. You paid the other $500 million, or maybe it cost you even more, but I don't care because I didn't pay for it. I socialized my costs.
And that's the thing that frustrates me the most about Walmart specifically, right? You have mindless, working class Republicans who go ahead and attack people in the same group as them, right? Working class individuals who are just trying to make ends meet. They're working 40 hours a week, right? But they still can't put food on the table because their wages are so low. And then they'll point to them and say, oh, those are the welfare queens, right? No. Walmart is the welfare queen, okay? We are subsidizing Walmart because they refuse to hire the workforce necessary to deter crime. They refuse to pay their employees enough money so they don't have to go on government assistance, okay? And so they don't get criticized. But working class individuals who literally work full-time jobs and still can't pay for their families, they're the ones who get criticized.
So, for example, if you pass a law increasing the minimum wage, that means that Walmart, in some of these cases, would have to pick up the tab for people who work for Walmart. And then if you're getting $15 minimum wage, you might not need food stamps, you might not need insurance through the government. So we then put the cost on where it belongs, the company making all that money, instead of having them put the cost on us. So if you're worried about crony capitalism, this is crony capitalism, where they say, no, I get to keep the profits. And all my costs, including all that extra crime in your neighborhood, now I'm going to put that cost on you. Because I worked with the government to make sure that they never increased minimum wage, they didn't regulate me, they didn't do anything that was supposed to protect you, the citizens, you, the consumers. And I got to get away with all this because I bought off the politicians. That's crony capitalism. That's what Walmart does on an industrial scale.
It makes me so angry. Final thing I just wanted to add to this. One of the people on the board, and I didn't know this until Bloomberg reported about it. One of the people on the board is Marissa Mayer, who was the CEO of Yahoo, who is no longer the CEO of Yahoo.
I think she might, even though they got bought, I think she might technically still be the CEO.
Well, technically, but obviously it's a very temporary thing because it just got bought by AOL, right?
No, Verizon.
By Verizon, you're right.
But they're all connected because Verizon also bought AOL.
That's right. She has no experience in retail whatsoever, okay? She's the person who decided to freaking buy Tumblr to save Yahoo, okay? These are people who are making decisions, okay?
Decisions are being made?
Decisions are being made, and it's...
Okay, and I'm going to give my standard caveat. Not every executive's a bad guy. Not every board member is an idiot or selfish.
A lot of them are.
And there are actually, believe it or not, some good private equity companies as well. But I'm telling you the general trends so that we can avoid problems going into the future, okay? Because if you don't understand what the issues are, you're not going to get to the right answers. Okay, let's move forward.
Ellen DeGeneres is being accused of being racist. And it's all because of a photoshopped image that she tweeted on her account. Now, the image was one of Usain Bolt. He's a fast runner, everyone knows this, and a lot of people were making memes about it because as he was finishing a 100-meter race, he turned and smiled at the cameras, literally before he crossed the finish line, and people thought it was hilarious because he's so fast that he has time to kind of stop and smile at the cameras, right?
So, look, Usain Bolt's been the fastest man in the world for a long time. He wins the 100-meter in the Olympics, and so he's so fast that he oftentimes will start slow because he doesn't want to, get disqualified in the beginning for starting wrong. And then he'll in the middle of a 100-meter, which is not a long race. Like, oh, now I will win. And he'll just power past the other guys. And he'll sometimes look at them and smile as he's passing them.
Oh.
He's unbelievably
I
fast.
know that that's unsportsmanlike behavior, but I kind of love it.
Of course
Right?
you do.
Like-
You're the queen of what now?
I know. And I think, isn't that a strategy, though, in a race, where you kind of start off slow, and then, like, everyone's
Not
like,
in a 100-meter.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
As fast as you can possibly go. It would be in longer distance runs. Anyway, so the bottom line is, the whole point of knowing Usain Bolt, what we know him for, is he's super fast. So Ellen's going to make a joke about it.
Yeah, so she made a joke about it. She tweeted an image of herself photoshopped on his back, and it just says, "This is how I'm running errands from now on," right? Usain Bolt apparently also retweeted that. But people felt that it was racist to show herself, riding on the back of Usain Bolt. So let me give you an example of some of the criticism that she got. One person wrote, "You thought it'd be funny to post a pic of yourself riding on the back of a black man? Nope. Delete this racist garbage." And by the way, I went in and I read a lot of the tweets myself, because I think a lot of times the media is just like salivating over a non-controversy, and so they'll find like one or two tweets and they'll make a big deal about it. But no, a lot of people are actually really outraged and angry about that image. Another person wrote, "Ride that brother like a horse, Ellen. I know you secretly like the D." No, actually she doesn't like the D. That's actually a well-reported fact. But anyway, so those were a few of the tweets that stood out to me. However, there were a lot of people who also defended her. One person said, "Y'all know damn well Ellen ain't racist, but y'all gonna act like she is because it's social media and you're annoying." I'm gonna stop saying y'all because I just don't speak like that and I feel like a clown. Yeah, okay. There's nothing wrong with speaking like that. It's just not my way of saying it. But anyway. And one other person says, "I'm absolutely baffled by the people who currently call Ellen DeGeneres racist because she more or less called an Olympic sprinter fast."
Okay, I'm ready for a ruling. Are you ready? Okay. Ellen, not racist. Okay. Now, I get the sense that you agree, Anna.
Yeah, I agree. That's racist?
Okay. Now, but let me give it context, and then we're going to bring our black correspondent in. And then Anna will get on his shoulders, and then they'll make a decision. Okay. So, look, there are circumstances where you can use stereotypes of the past that you wouldn't normally think might be racist if you didn't know that context. So oftentimes this will happen with guys dressing up in blackface on Halloween. If you don't know, you're like, "What's the big deal, man? I wouldn't care if a black guy wore a whiteface." Well, you don't know the history of people dressing in blackface and yada yada, right? So here, theoretically, you could begin to make that argument about you shouldn't have a black man carrying a white woman, but I don't even really quite know what it's referring to. And so, there's the reference to the horse, there's a reference to riding him like a mule, but that wasn't quite a thing either. You're really stretching to get there.
I just feel like context matters, right? And so Ellen DeGeneres is not Tommy Lauren, okay? Ellen DeGeneres is not someone who has a questionable history of making questionable statements about minorities, about black people. It doesn't make any sense, right? It was obviously meant in fun. It wasn't meant to be malicious in any way. Ellen DeGeneres is not racist. She's not racist, okay?
Yeah, I mean, so if you had the context of, like, Rush Limbaugh doing this and saying, "Watch me ride this boy like chattel," you go, okay, there's a connection there that is ugly and inappropriate. Here, who really thinks Ellen meant it? Okay, now, you can still be wrong even if you didn't mean it. So we go to J.R. Jackson, who is J.R. rated. So watch yourself. What do you think?
Well, that's the last thing you said. Is the one caveat. I mean, I don't believe it either. She has these racist tendencies, but people who have racist tendencies don't always show it in all their history, right? So it's not that that's the fact, but it's a simple thing of just hear what people have to say. Maybe, and I doubt that everyone who saw it had an immediate visceral reaction weren't being very honest with their feelings. I'm sure a lot of them said, "Damn, I don't like how that looks." Because there's history. There's history of black Indian cult studs and buffs and and all that shit. So when you see someone writing them, you might think that harkens back because of how much you were into it, how much that affected you, how much you really looked into it. So it's okay for some people to have their feelings. And then after that, maybe explain yourself. You even say that, oh yeah, I get your feelings behind it. I understand what happened, but that wasn't what I was trying to do, and no hard feelings. Don't mean to really come off that way. I'm not getting the best wording for it, but to get angry at people for their automatic reactions doesn't really help either. That's you stupid idiots. What are you doing? What are you thinking? Well, they're thinking the way they think. You know, she's thinking the way she thinks.
But if the automatic reaction is this person is a racist, I mean, think about that, okay? And that's the thing that is really difficult as anyone who's in the limelight or anyone who's a public figure, right? You do something without any malice, without any bad intent, and then people start labeling you as a racist, right? And it just sucks because it's defamatory and it's not who she is, it's not what she meant. I guess that's the reason why. And another thing is, look, this is what my biggest concern is, aside from Ellen being called racist. Racism definitely exists, as we all know. Serious cases of racism where black people are disproportionately targeted by law enforcement, where, you know, you have more people, black people being thrown in prison for the exact same crimes that white individuals are doing. And so when you have stories like this, these are the stories that unfortunately get more attention, right, than the disproportionate targeting of police and all that. And so people will see stories like this and they'll be like, come on, you see that? We have conquered racism. Like, they're making something out of nothing. And I don't want that to happen. I want people to take real instances of racism seriously.
So luckily, I'm going to resolve all this. Okay. So first of all, you know, JR's right. You know, there's a history of studs, etc. But Ellen's lesbian, so it's really quite fit, right? So again, context matters. But I think that the people who have a visceral reaction to it, I get what JR is saying. Okay, you had a visceral reaction to it because of what you know and what others might not know, and that was the reaction you had. But at the same time, I'd ask you to be careful about that a little bit because of what Anna said, which is, look, people aren't going to know that blacks get arrested 4 times as much for marijuana use than whites do, even though whites and blacks use marijuana at the same exact rate. See, now if everybody in the country knew that, and you knew where the real racism was and how much it mattered and how it destroyed lives, and then you added this on top, okay, then that's less of an issue. But more people are going to find out about this Ellen DeGeneres thing than the marijuana fact. So, and then they're going to get to go, see, I knew it. It's all a bunch of nonsense. Of course, there's no race. That wasn't racist, and nothing is racist. So, but at the same time, we all need to be calm, too, and go, okay, as JR said, okay, they had a visceral reaction to it. They're allowed to have a visceral reaction to it. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world either way. I don't think Ellen is remotely racist. I don't think she meant anything by it. But at the same time, you know, it's okay to say to the people who had that reaction, hey, let's talk it out. Instead of both sides being angry at one another. Because there's real racism in the world, and there are real racists in the world, and they got to be called out. And we don't want to diminish the power of that because they have a real effect in this world. So that's the conversation I think we need to have.
And finally, I do want to give you Ellen's reaction to the criticism because she did tweet something about it afterwards. And she says, I am highly aware of the racism that exists in our country. It is the furthest thing from who I am.
Okay, God bless. So that's her not freaking out over it and saying it is what it is.
It was still a tone of, I know, in that tweet. I'm just saying, you don't have to say I'm sorry because I don't think she did anything particularly wrong. But just be cool. Just be even with it. You are in this place of notoriety and effect. You have an effect on people. You're known. It comes to the territory. So just understand it. Like, I didn't even see that.
So that's okay. See, that's where I disagree with you. I think that tweet was totally fine. Because I wouldn't have apologized because I don't think I did anything wrong. So I see the tone that you're implying is in there, JR, but I don't think that's what she intended. No, I'm going full part. That's all right, though. We had the conversation.
It's not always the person that did it that's racist. As we all know, there's racism in America. But we talk about how Donald Trump, we don't know how much he's really riling up racists. We know he is a racist, too. But how much he's riling it up for his own intention. But even when you're not trying to, it's just, there's people we know still in the country like, yeah, ride that N-word. And it's not good imagery all the time to see. Even if she doesn't mean it, which I agree she didn't mean it that way. I don't think she did. It's a funny looking image. She's smiling, it's a dark haired guy with white teeth smiling, so it looks like all these old school images you see of caricatures making the butt of the joke. She's above them. There's all these little things.
Chair, I don't know if you heard earlier. I already made a rule.
Yeah, so I'm just done. I'm done. I know I talked further after we already talked.
No. Those are all good points. And for people that have never watched the show before, I don't know if you know this. If I make a ruling, it doesn't actually mean it. We all get to have our opinions, and they're just as valid. Mine a little bit more so, but still, you see my point. All right, let's move forward. Oh shoot, we gotta take a break. Dude, bro, the two stories that are coming up, legendary.
Please believe me.
You don't want to miss it. Come right back.
I'm super excited because we have different levels of members. They pay $10 a month, but there are some members that pay a little more. Executive producers, for instance. My favorite thing about executive producers is that we have quarterly calls with them. I love that I'm getting a little transparency and I'm knowing what you guys like and dislike, ideas on how to improve the show, topics that maybe we haven't heard of yet you really want us to cover. We have so much respect for you because of the fact that you keep us independent and allow us to be uncensored, unfiltered, without worrying about corporate sponsors breathing down our necks and telling us what we can and can't say. So if you want to be a member, obviously no pressure. You can go ahead and join by going to tycnetwork.com/join. I'm going to ask some uncomfortable questions. First topic that I said that we would discuss a little more is masturbation.
I was swimming in a hazelnut river.
Are you sure you're not doing mushrooms? Oh my god, I can achieve an orgasm by myself.
Fuck that, I am going to talk about it because there should be no shame. I think a lot about them because I love life.
That openness led to amazing.
And I keep saying to everybody, I gotta go call my wife. I figured that was a good excuse if people can't say, hey, don't call your wife. Listen.
It's so weird because at that moment I felt it and it smelled like laughter.
At the end, you get to go check. Nice job. If you're up after the answer, you were wrong.
Mayweather will knock out Pacquiao. Floyd beats his wife.
The Ellen thing actually lit people up. First on Walmart, Annie says, I would hate to die at Walmart. I'm not joking, my spirit would go on strike. I don't know if you know this, Annie, but you're joking, because lights out when you die. Okay. Alright, sorry, that was my atheist streak. Okay, Nacho Mama writes in, that's racist now? Sorry, I think that's a bridge too far. Septian Patterson says, Ellen's not racist, but that tweet was in poor taste. So a lot of disagreement here. La Chancla says, it's Ellen, people. Ellen fucking DeGeneres.
Such a fucking good handle. I'm sorry, I didn't even pay attention to your tweet.
No, you guys are laughing because I don't speak Spanish. What does La Chancla mean?
It's what your mom uses to beat the shit out of you when you're out of line.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay.
It's a sandal, yeah.
And she said, La Chancla writes in. Is that racist? It's Ellen, people. Ellen fucking DeGeneres. I don't think racism exists anywhere in her biological makeup. Santos Juante writes in. Upset over Ellen's tweet is Hussein in the membrane.
Did we miss that opportunity?
Oh, we missed it. Alex C. says they were using racism like Hillary supporters use sexism, taking the power away from a very important word. Onikaze says hard to tell the difference between a genuine visceral reaction and manufactured drama in a tweet. Also a very good point. So great points all around. And it's a rare case where I am allowing dissent. So go forward. Okay. Members of the day are Eric Puso, member number 1772, and 1773 is Cooper Spence. Guys, today in the post game, we're going to run that CNN clip where they featured us. That's fun. And then we're going to tell you a story about the reporter who's in that clip. So there's a lot of fun stuff in there. So tytnetwork.com/join. Can I see 23,000? Can I see 23,000?
We'll see.
tytnetwork.com/join. Okay, I have to give you these poll results. Last thing. Do you support France's burkini ban? Lots of votes. 75% said no.
What? Really?
Yeah. Only 24% supported. But 1% was confused. Okay. Should Qin Kai have proposed? That was the Chinese dude at the Olympics that proposed.
Yeah.
80% with a no. Over 2,500 votes. 80% no, 19% yes. Again, 1% out to lunch. Okay. Forward. Here's my favorite speech.
All right.
Deanna Carter noticed a man on the train in New York City rubbing his penis. And apparently this is a common thing that happens on trains. Sexual harassment and sexual assault has actually shot up considerably in the last year. So as a result, she took out her cell phone, started filming him, and really put him on blast. Take a look.
What the fuck are you doing? You fucked up on this train. You want to do that freaky shit? You do that shit off the motherfucking train. Do it again, and I'm getting up out this chair, and I'm gonna bust your fucking ass on the train. We understand each other? Do we fucking understand each other? Do some freaky shit again, and I'm gonna get up out this chair, and I'm gonna bust your ass. You wanna rub your dick, bitch? You rub your dick when you get off the motherfucking train. Do we fucking understand each other? I'm in one of those moods, I will fuck you up on this train. You hear me? I can't hear you. Do you fucking hear me? Now the next stop, you get the fuck up. You hear me? You get your ass the fuck up off this train with that freaky shit. When this train stops, you get the fuck off. Do you understand me? I can't hear you. Say I understand you, miss. All right now, we gotta understand it. Now I've got your fucking picture on here. Like I said, I don't give a fuck if this ain't your stop. You get off this train with that freaky shit. Get up. Get the fuck up. Get the fuck off this train. With your fucking crazy ass, get the fuck off the train. Sitting here rubbing on your penis. Are you serious? Get the fuck off. Before I beat the shit out of you. You got the right one, honey, because I'm a crazy bitch. Please believe me. Get the fuck off the train.
Oh, I believe you. I believe you, Deanna Carter. Deanna Carter just became a legend. Okay, that was epic. That was epic.
That was the most amazing thing I've seen in my entire career.
Get up! Get the fuck up! Get the fuck off this train! You get off this train with that freaky shit!
You get off the train with that freaky shit! Okay.
You got the right one, honey, because I'm a crazy bitch!
Oh, I love that line!
Deanna Carter for the win!
That was my favorite line. Can you play that one more time? It gives me life.
You got the right one, honey, because I'm a crazy bitch! Please believe me!
I do.
I feel inspired.
Yeah. See, he messed with the wrong woman, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, there is something viscerally pleasing about Deanna Carter there. I know.
So
that's
good.
a great graphic.
So good.
Okay. Because, on the New York subway, a lot of dirty things happen. And a lot of stupid stuff happens. And people think they didn't get away with anything. And this happens all across the world in buses and trains, etc. And there was something there that Deanna Carter did that I think a lot of women thought, finally!
Yes.
Finally! Someone said,
I can't hear you. Do you fucking hear me?
I mean, the strength in that, right?
I think you're right. That's the reason why, watching something like that inspired me. And, I get it. Some people are going to be turned off by it because she's, using the language she's using. I don't care. Because oftentimes when you're being victimized like that, right, you feel kind of helpless. Like, okay, I'll give you guys an example. So a few years ago, I went to visit a friend in New York, and I was completely inexperienced in riding the train and dealing with what a lot of women deal with in these trains in New York. I was sitting, and it was not a packed train. There was plenty of room. Some guy comes on it, and he walks right in front of me, puts both his hands on like the railing or whatever at the top, and his crotch is right in my face. And I didn't know what to do. I was by myself. I was pretty scared, and I just kind of like sat like this the entire time. Because there aren't a lot of people on the train. I don't know if anyone's gonna like protect me if I like speak up or do something. And so yeah, a lot of women feel like they can't speak up, they can't defend themselves, they can't do anything about it. And to see a woman stick up for herself like this feels great.
Yeah, because a lot of guys take advantage of the fact that people will be scared, people will be intimidated, etc. And somebody probably won't say,
I'm in one of those moods. I will fuck you up on this train.
And so the way she reversed the roles, and the look on his face was precious. I mean, like, I think he said, I couldn't quite tell it. I thought he might have said, like, this is not, or intimated that this is not my stop.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I don't give a shit that it's not your stop. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to get off this train. And he's like, but, men being what they are, who knows what any guy's into. He's obviously into, like, some sort of exhibitionism, doing it in public. He gets off on that. Who knows? That might have been the thrill of his life.
I don't think so. I think that this video just might ruin his life.
No, that's true, because he's put on blast, and you see his face, and he's going to be probably devastated by that. But there are guys who would have been into that, being yelled at like that, and then they would have gone home and been like, oh.
Get up! Get the fuck up! Get the fuck off this train!
And be like, yes, I do. Right? And so, for example, when she said,
I can't hear you. Do you fucking hear me?
Right? A lot of guys will be into that. So that's the thing with guys. There's no winning sometimes.
Guys are into that, but they're into that in a fantasy setting where it doesn't mean anything. I mean, I don't know what he was feeling.
We have no idea. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate and kind of provide a different component to the story, a different angle, and kind of get everyone's thought on it, okay? I'm not saying this because I necessarily believe it, but I do think it raises an interesting question. So, look, I watched that video a few times, mostly because I was amused by it, but also because I wanted to see if there was any evidence of him doing that, and you really can't tell because he has the backpack there, and he's kind of covering himself. He doesn't appear to be moving his arms, so I have no idea, right? And so there are obviously two different courts, court of public opinion, and then there is actual, courts where you can get convicted of a crime. I don't know if there's enough evidence in there for him to ever be convicted of the crime, but in the court of public opinion, he's done. He's done, right? Yeah. And so there is no trial, there is no jury, there is no real evidence presented, it's just that video. And so it does raise an interesting question of, whether or not it's okay to post something like that.
So no, it's a totally fair question. If we were in a criminal court, there's no way he'd be convicted. There's not clear enough evidence there.
Yeah.
And so in terms of court of public opinion, now, it's a relatively recent story. There hasn't been that many follow-ups to it, so no one objected to her version of events. And you can see in the video, it's not like anybody's saying, like, no, come on, he wasn't doing that.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And there's nobody defending him. And he, through his actions, and he might be a shy guy, so it's maybe not fair, but through his actions seemed to be like, okay, I got to get out of here. Right? Because, if somebody, again, it depends on your personality. But if somebody yelled at me like that, and I hadn't done it, I'd be like, okay, much love.
Yeah.
Okay, but you got it all wrong. That's crazy, dog. I wasn't doing that. And if I leave, it'll look like I was doing that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to, argue your point about, other people on the train not saying anything. I mean, based on my experience, I feel like other people on the train just don't want to get involved and they don't say anything anyway, right? It's very rare for people to get involved in a case like that. So, I don't know. It is an interesting case, and overall, I'm happy with the way that she defended herself, but it does raise some interesting, privacy concerns and stuff like that.
Sure, and look, I hope to God she got it right.
Yeah.
And that so that he was getting yelled at for the right reasons. But he seemed to certainly act in a way that indicated that he had been doing it, and then got out of there.
Yeah.
It is possible that he's a guy who's enormously shy, and hence, right or wrong, he just wanted to leave that very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a much more fun story if it turns out he did do it. Okay, so I'm going to assume what is very, very likely, that she did that for a reason. She didn't just invent that sitting across the way from him. That's a hell of a thing to accuse someone of if you're not absolutely sure.
Right.
So, look, the bottom line is, when she says,
Please believe me.
I do. And if you think that's the last you've heard of those sound effects, you're very, very wrong.
Please believe me.
All right. One more story for you guys. A college student in Florida is alleged to have taken some sort of drug, although that has not been confirmed, and as a result, he stabbed a couple to death and proceeded to chew the face off of one of the victims. So the 19-year-old suspect in this case is Austin Haroof, and John Joseph Stevens III and his wife Michelle Stevens were sitting in their garage when Austin Haroof approached and allegedly stabbed them to death, police said. The suspect was also accused of stabbing a neighbor who tried to intervene. Now, Haroof was at dinner with his family when he got agitated and abruptly left. There's some speculation that he got agitated over slow service. But after that occurred, that was when he walked as far as 4 miles toward his father's home, but then stopped along the way and went after these victims. It was a completely random crime. He did not know the couple. He did sustain some injuries himself and is currently in critical condition. And I also want to note that when police arrived on the scene, they attempted to tase him several times as he was biting the face off of John Joseph Stevens III, but the taser didn't work. So they needed 4 cops and a canine in order to subdue him.
Okay, so this has a lot of different angles, but first, let's start with the tragedy of that couple. Such a sweet couple. They apparently would get home from work, and they'd open up the garage, they'd invite anybody who wanted to come by, neighbors would come by, they'd watch games together, they called it the Garage Mahal. So they were being super friendly in the neighborhood, but they happened to be out, whereas other people were in their house, so they got punished in this case for actually being more open and friendly. So, that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking in 100 different ways. And this guy who was literally acting like an animal, he was grunting, growling, and attacked them, and then bit their face off, comes and kills them. Mm-hmm. So, it's an absolute tragedy. Now, okay, if this is a mystery as to why he did it. So they said that he did not test positive for cocaine, opiates, meth, marijuana. That all came back negative. They're still pending FLACA, but people say no. He was on the people. He used to be on the football team, and they would try to get him to hit people, and he wouldn't. And he's a shy guy.
Not only that, people are saying that authorities are saying that had he taken FLACA, his body temperature would be high, and he did not experience that. So they believe it's unlikely he was on FLACA, but we don't know because so far they haven't tested him for that specifically.
Okay, now I'm going to get a little controversial. If you've got a black guy in Florida eating somebody's face off, you think they go taser and then call in a couple more people, try to subdue him as he's killing those people, or do you think they shoot?
I mean, they would shoot immediately. Yeah, come on, we know that.
So, look, we often ask for restraint from cops, and here, I don't want to get on them for showing too much restraint.
No, I think that they handled it.
That's a super tough call. It's a super tough call in the middle of a traumatic moment there. So I'm not saying the cops did anything wrong here.
They did not do anything
Right.
wrong.
So what I'm saying is we often have disparate treatment here. We got to keep it real about this. I mean, my God, they still didn't shoot him. They tase him. They try to restrain him. They can't get him off. He's killing them, and they still don't shoot him. So apparently there are situations in which cops can show restraint, right? In fact, in this case, again, not to overly criticize them, but they showed perhaps too much restraint because then those two people died. They might have died anyway.
Yeah,
right?
we don't know at what point the cops showed up. They might have already been dead, so I don't even want to say that.
Okay.
That's speculation.
All right. But I'm worried that people are treated differently. Now, if he was Muslim, this would be a national catastrophe. And oh my God, now they're eating people. They're cannibals, and Trump would get on do a press conference and say this is ISIS related. And
do we know he's not Muslim? His last name's Haruf. I don't know.
His first name is Austin.
That doesn't mean anything.
Okay, yeah, no, that means something, right? So we don't know for sure. We'll see. But Haruf is, again, it's not spelled in a way that you would think. Look, we'll find out. But right now, no one believes he's Muslim. No one said that in any news story. So if he was, oh my God, they're eating people's face off. These cannibals, these monsters, these animals. Let's bomb Syria. So now he's a kid from Florida. Are we bombing Florida? Of course not, because it's just one crazy guy. By the way, there was another incident in Florida. There was just one crazy guy who was gay and felt jilted by his lovers, goes into a nightclub, shoots people up, and we got to kill people in Syria. So my point is, they're crazy people. We should treat them the same, no matter what their background is, etc. I'm not looking for harsher treatment on anyone. I'm looking for the same treatment, right?
Consistent treatment.
Consistent treatment. So and now back to why he did it. No, this is crazy. So something went wrong here. I don't know if it's some sort of drug. Despite the fact that they say he has tested positive for those particular drugs, I would keep testing.
Yeah.
Because this is not a normal human reaction from a kid who apparently didn't show any signs of this before, or for whatever reason he snapped.
Yeah, he was on the football team, the wrestling team. His teammates on the football team, who went to FSU, say that the coach wanted him to be more aggressive, but he just didn't have it in him. And also, he has no criminal record, no violent history whatsoever. I would speculate that it has something to do with a drug, but we don't know yet. So I want to make sure you guys know that's just speculation.
Yeah. And they say former teammates, so it might have been from high school. I don't know that he was on Florida State's a hell of a team. I don't know that he was on it. And of course, as always, not always, but almost always, you've got the guy who knew him who says, former teammate of his, I didn't think he would hurt a fly, to be honest. And he did a hell of a lot more than that. So if it turns out that it was a drug, guys, be careful the drugs you're taking, man. I mean, this is the second story out of Florida where somebody's eating somebody's face. And
why would anyone take vodka? I don't understand it.
It's because you're not going to be the same person. You're not going to be able to control yourself. I don't know if you even remember what you experienced. There's no point in taking that drug. Again, well, let's see what he took, if he took anything. But we'll get back to you guys on it, report back on it, because don't take that. That's a terrible, terrible idea. There is no feeling that's good enough to justify what might happen. Okay.
I got to do the next story. I'm sorry.
We got to do the next story.
We have to do it.
All right.
I know we're over.
No, we have to do it.
We do. Okay. Egypt State Television has ordered a few of their female anchors to lose weight before they can appear on television again. So, the Egyptian Radio and Television Union has given the women 1 month to slim down before they can appear on air again with an appropriate appearance. The ERTU has a female director, Safa Hagazi, a former state TV anchor herself, and she's very much in favor of this ban. Okay, so let me show you an image of one of the reporters who's been targeted. She basically is saying, all right, well, I want people to take a good look at me and tell me to my face that they think that I'm fat. And by the way, many people have done that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Wait till you read the comments down below.
Okay, so at the state-owned Al Aram Daily, journalist Fatima Al-Sharawi says she thinks the policy should be applied across local TV stations. On social media, some users voiced support for the women, but others called them bakabuzas, a term Egyptians use to describe overweight girls. Let's take a quick look at the male anchors for a second. You know, I mean, I actually don't know who they are, so I don't have pictures of them. But are the male anchors like Lotharios? Like, do all the women want to fuck them? And that's the only reason why people watch the news there?
Well, now, in the news business, in not just in Egypt, but in a lot of places, including the U.S., they do generally pick attractive people because they're on camera. To keep it real, call it what it is. And a lot of the male anchors here in America are attractive, and sometimes they are picked because they're attractive.
Who's the guy with the really good hair? He did, like, debate coverage once this year. Really good hair. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's like freaking Ken hair.
So
Anyway.
I forget his name.
Yeah, that
But,
guy's
you know,
hot.
you've got the Bill Hemmers, you got the Don Lemons. Sorry for all the names I'm throwing out, okay?
But you also have a lot of unattractive male hosts and anchors as well, and that's completely fine.
The Wolf Blitzers, the Cenk Uygurs. So, it happens. And so, it's not purely a female thing. They do look at men's looks as well to some degree. Here, they're being extraordinarily honest about it. In America, I think they would have been savvier because they would have been worried about public perception and getting sued. So they would have done it one at a time, and they would have, found other reasons, and they would have quietly assassinated their careers in the middle of the night while no one noticed. So I'm keeping it real, so it's not just an Egypt problem. Now, the problem with being overly honest is then you're even more offensive, and you make it even clearer how despicable you're being, that you don't care at all about their talents in presenting the news, etc. But look, that's going to lead me to another point, which is we care about how smart someone is and what they have to say about the news, because that's the kind of show we do. But for almost all of the rest of television, including in Egypt, all they're doing is reading. So what they're saying over here is, well, they're all actors.
Yeah.
It's totally irrelevant what they think of the news. What is there to present the news? They're just reading. It's all teleprompters, and they read. So I might as well get somebody attractive to read.
Yeah, look, I think that, TYT as a company is definitely unique when it comes to that, right? Like, I don't feel like you would ever tell me, it would be laughable if you ever told me that I need to lose weight, right? It just wouldn't happen. But
It's really laughable given the glass house I live in.
But also, being employed here is different from, the public's perception. And so I would say the vast majority of TYT viewers don't really care about my weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, once I do gain a little bit of weight, like, I'll be notified immediately. Is Anna preggers? No, I'm not preggers, okay? I just enjoyed a steak last night, and it was fucking awesome. Right? How about you listen to what I have to say? And, like, that's the thing that frustrates me. Every once in a while, people are really, like, scared to tell me that they think I look pretty that day because they think that I'm going to get offended. I don't get offended when people say nice things about my appearance, but I do get offended when everything is about my appearance, right? Because I want people to focus a little bit, at least, on what I have to say. And I think that with women, it's so easy to distract the audience based on the way we dress, how much we weigh, the color of our hair, how we do our makeup, all of these irrelevant things that have nothing to do with the news whatsoever. I mean, I know that you get criticized by, your haters for your weight, but I guarantee you don't get nearly as many comments as I do about your appearance.
So that's absolutely true. And so this is a great example of it because, as Anna pointed out, there is no discussion of the Egyptian male anchor's weight or appearance in any way, shape, or form. Were they told to get rid of their mustache? I don't know if they have mustache. Okay, but score one for apparently more open Muslims because they want the women to look better in appearance instead of covering them up. So, as you can see, there's a lot of different kinds of Muslims. Okay, how's that for a silver lining in an otherwise terrible story?
And by the way, 1 month to lose weight, really? That is such a tiny amount of time to lose weight.
It's totally unrealistic. And the last part of this that's unfortunate is, as Anna pointed out, the people celebrating it. So people in Egypt saying, yeah, of course. Because when you celebrate that, what you're saying is they should only be judged on their appearance.
Yeah.
And that's an absolute wrong lesson, not just for that particular station or that particular country. But if you've got daughters, do you want them to be judged only on their appearance? Do you really? I mean, and so I ask you to open up your mind a little bit, because I assume, I hope you have loved ones who are females.
Yeah.
They're 50% of the world. Right? You've got to have some around you. Don't you want them to be treated with the same kind of respect and decency as you would hope that you would get treated with?
Yeah. Also, there's a little bit of an elephant in the room that I really quickly want to address, because I can already see it happening in the comment section and all that.
Don't bother.
Just really quickly. Look, in this case, these women are being judged solely on their appearance, right? Which I think is wrong. In the case, I have used questionable language while very heated toward an individual who I will not name. I judge the content of his character, and I think he's a shitty person. So I don't regret what I said.
Okay, God bless. Because
that easy.
There's 1,000 insults that you could use against that guy and have it be accurate. And you were saying that as an insult to him in general, not specifically because you care about his weight.
Yeah, it's not like I'm like, oh, this guy is actually really great as a person, but he's overweight, so I'm just gonna... No, it was the heat of the moment. I felt attacked, and, that was the first word that came out of my mouth. And, some people are like, that makes you a hypocrite. Okay, then I'm a hypocrite.
Okay, so, well, then that just got resolved.
Yeah.
Okay? So.
Please believe me.
All right. We are out of time, massively. We do have a wonderful post-game coming up for you, where we apparently say inappropriate things, which then get talked about on the internet. So, that was earlier in the week. Make sure you check out Monday and Tuesday's post-games. PYTnetwork.com/join. Oh, yeah. Man, that was super awkward. And somebody asked me, are we doing the bye-bye anymore now that McLaughlin died?
Of course we are.
Okay, yes. Of course
it's now our thing.
Sorry. John, may you rest in peace. I think that he'll look down and be happy that we continue to do the homage.
Yeah.
PYTnetwork.com/join. Bye-bye.